Good morning, everyone. So today we will discuss the Freud's personality components. So Freud's described the personality structures as having three components. So we have here the ID, the superego, the ego, and the superego. So as you can see here, one's personality, the first one to develop is the ID. The second to develop is the ego. And then the last to develop in one's personality is the superego. In Freud's theory of psychosexual development, the superego is the last component of personality to develop. The ID is the basic, or what we call the primal part of personality. It is present from birth. So the ID is present from birth. The ego begins to develop during the first 3 years of a child's life. And finally, the superego starts to emerge around age of 5. So let's talk about first the ID. So ID, it means Latin for quote-unquote it. Is oblivious of the external world and unaware of the passage of time. It is because ID is unaware of the passage of time or passing of time. It is because birth pa kasi. So during the infancy period, hindi naman natin alam yung oras. Hindi naman natin alam nung baby pa tayo ang oras, di ba? So, Freud says that a child is born with ID. The ID plays the vital role in one's personality because as a baby, it works so that the baby's essential needs are met. So, yung mga basic essential needs ng baby, yung magdudo, magpupo, mag-aiyak, mag-cry, magtawa, yun lang ang mga kailangan niya. So, ID is what we call the pleasure principle. Because it focuses on immediate gratification or satisfaction of its need. So, very, very simple, very, very amazing and simple ang pleasure principle in regards sa ID because ang kailangan lang ng mga bata yung mga basic needs lang nila. So, of course, if you already meet that one, as a mother, makikita mo naman, ma-observe mo naman, di ba, na ay natutuwa yung anak ko kasi busog na siya. And he sleep or she sleeps peacefully. Ngayon, makikita mo, hindi mo na-meet ang pleasure or kailangan or basic needs ng anak mo or ng baby during the period na baby siya. It is because nag-iiyak siya. Ang uncomfortable. Baka gutom, baka nagpupo, o baka hindi mo pinalitan ng diaper, or baka inaantok na. Okay. Nothing else matters to the ID except the satisfaction of its own need. It is not oriented towards considering reality nor the needs of other. Just see how babies cry any time of a day and night. Absolutely no regard of whether mommy is tired or daddy is sleeping. When the ID wants something, it wants it now, and it wants it fast. So, yung baby, wala siyang pakialam kung pagod na ang nanay o natutulog yung tatay. Basta kung gusto niya ngayon at gusto niya mabilis. Alright. So, let's talk about the second one is the ego. In psychoanalytic theory, that portion of human personality which is experienced as the self or I and is in contact with external world through perception. So when we talk about self or I and meron ng perception na nag-i-intervene, now it is what we call reality principle. So the ego, as the baby turns into toddler and then into a preschooler, he or she relates more with the environment. So the ego slowly begin to emerge. The ego operates using the reality principle. It is aware that the others have needs to be met. It is a principle because it knows that being impulsive or selfish can result to negative consequence later. So it reasons and considers the best response of situations. As such, it is deciding agent of personality. Although its functions to help the ID meets its needs, it always take into account of reality of the situation. Of course, under this one, the reality principle, it also gumagana pa rin si ID. Yun yung mga basic needs. And si superego nag-emerge, the reality principle. So when we talk about reality principle, do you observe na during preschooler, alam na nila ang good and bad. Alam na nila ang mga consequence sa mga ginagawa nila. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, or as you can observe, during preschoolers or toddler, medyo may alam na sila sa right and wrong. So if they do the wrong thing, of course, parang pumapasok na si konsensya. Hala, parang mali man yung ginawa ko, lagot talaga ako kay nanay. Parang feeling ko tama naman ako sa ginawa ko. So they are proud of what they have, of what they're doing is right. But the konsensya is right if they do something wrong. So that is what we call the reality principle under the ego of one's personality. Now let's talk about superego. So superego is the moral aspect, and what we call the moral aspect. So near the end of preschool years or the end of the phallic stage, the superego develops. The superego embodies a person's moral aspect. Alright, in psychology, the superego can be further divided into two components. So the ego ideal and the conscience. So the ego ideal is a part of the superego that includes the rules and standards of good behaviors. These behaviors include those that are approved by the parent and the other authority figures. Obeying these rules lead to feeling of pride, value, and accomplishment. And breaking these rules can result in feelings of guilt. So under the superego is what we have, the ego ideal, right? So on this part of the superego, dito pumapasok si rules and standard ng mga behaviors. So as you can observe then, if may mga alam ko may mga nanay din dito ng mga estudyante ko, as you can observe sa mga bata, if you set a good rules and regulation under your roof, no? Especially pag nasa bahay or nasa labas, you always set a standard. Okay, you have to behave, you have to clean the house carefully and properly para meron kang reward later on. So, merong mga siniset kaagad ang mga parents, not only the parents, but yung tipong may authority na tingin nila. Again, guys, if you set the rules and standard for other people, especially children, dapat you also set the standard within yourself na gagawin mo din siya. Why? Kasi nga, palagi nila yung maiisip na hindi mo nga ginagawa, paano na lang kaya ako? Okay? Bago tayo mag-set ng rules and regulation in regards sa ating pamamahay or whether saan tayo pupunta o patungo, pag once nag-set ka ng rules and regulation, you have to obey it first before anything else. Okay? So, you must be a good follower in your own standards and regulation or rules. Okay. Pag ang isang bata is na-obey niya yung standards and rules ng isang parent or isang authority na figure, now, there are, nafe-feel nila yung pride na tipong, kaya ko palang maglinis, kaya ko palang maging good boy all throughout the day, or kaya ko palang maging good girl all throughout the day. If nagawa nila yun, it is considered as their accomplishments, and they already valued it. So, of course, they feel pride, they value it, and they consider it as one of their accomplishments. They are proud of that. They are proud in following the standards and the procedure or rules in regards to the elderly give to them. So, magiging proud sila na, ma o dad, naging good boy ako buong araw. Diba, bukas magiging good boy ulit ako? Or tipong, ma, good girl lang ako buong araw. Lalo na kanina sa school. Bukas gagawin ko ulit. Of course, it is accomplishment for them. If, and only if, of course, wala naman talagang bata na perfecto, no? They already, always breaking the rules, of course. So, in result to that, they already feel guilt. Papasok si konsensya, ay, parang hindi ako naging good girl ngayon or good boy ngayon. Bukas kaya, maging good girl ako ulit. Kasi they always feel guilt. Well, sabi ko nga again, walang perfect na bata. It is because all around them may mga temptations din. Okay. Another example for temptations is yung mga bata naglalaro, nanggugulo. Of course, they find it fun, they find it amazing. Syempre, ginagawa din nila yon. Tatakbo-takbo na lang ako, boring pa lang, nakaupo lang palagi, and then may nabasag na vase or may nabasag something. Syempre, kasali sila doon and they feel guilty of it. Alright, next. The ego ideal is often thought of as the image we have of our ideal selves. Of course, sabi ko kanina, 'di ba? The people we want to become. It is this image of ideal individual, often modeled after people that we know, and that we hold up as the standard of who we are striving to be. Every individual or every person has a unique technique on how na magiging siya in the near future, but with the help of such elders na tipong ina-idolize ng isang tao. So, pag bata pa, marami yan silang idolo. Especially kung gusto nilang maging ganun sila paglaki. Okay? Kaya sabi ko sa inyo, be careful of who you are, especially when you are setting the rules and regulation under your roof or your premises. Why? Ginagaya, they mimic it, and they follow it. Of course, if sinabi mong, do not do this, do not do that, and then you as an elder, ginagawa mo, so paano nila i-obey yung rules and regulation na binigay ninyo kung kayo mismo nagbe-break in dun sa binigay yung rules and regulation? So, of course, ina-idol kayo niyan. Si tita nga, hindi daw mag-cellphone during at night. Nagpupuyat nga siya. So, you see, they always mimic on what you do because hindi ninyo napapansin, ina-idol na kayo ng bata. Of course, tayo, especially ngayon, may mga iniidolo naman tayo, 'di ba? Kahit na nasa college na tayo, na tipong, gusto ko after 10 years, gagaya ako ni Doc ganito ng DepEd para maging doctor din ako ng DepEd. Or tipong, after 10 years, gusto ko maging magaling akong teacher dahil ayaw kong kagaya sa kanya or dahil gusto ko maging kagaya sa kanya. Okay? So, unconsciously, meron tayong mga iniidulong tao o tinitingalang tao na eto ang gusto ko in the near future. Next, the second part of the superego is what we call the conscience. It's composed of rules for which behaviors are considered bad. When we engage in action that conform to the ego ideal, we feel good about ourselves and proud of our accomplishments. When we do things that our conscience considers bad, we experience feelings of guilt. So, parang nag-i-inline lang siya kay ego ideal, si conscience. Sabi ko kanina, when you always feel do good or that children always do good, of course, it is their pride, if it is their accomplishment, and they already they valued it. If it is considered a situation or the things that they made or make is bad, papasok si konsensya dun. Papasok ang experience na feeling nila ang guiltiness. So, can you see the difference? Of course, tayo din naman ngayon, meron din naman konsensya. Kung sa tingin natin mali, papasok din si konsensya at magigilty ka. Okay, here are the topographical model. As you can see, we have here the ID, ego, and the superego. Okay. So, under the unconscious is the ID. Because, sabi nga kanina, under ID, hindi namamalayan. Of course, unconscious, pero ginagawa. Ay, hindi ko na namalayan palang oras. Ang bilis. It is considered as unconscious and it belongs to ID. So, when we talk about preconscious, here. Okay, we will tackle the topographical model. So, picturean nyo, baka kasali siya sa exam. Okay. In Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory of personality, the unconscious mind is defined as the reservoir of feelings, thoughts, and urges and memories that outside of conscious awareness. Freud believes that the unconscious continue to influence behavior even though people are unaware of these underlying influences. So, he believed that the unconscious, or Freud said that the most what we go through in our lives, especially when we talk emotions, beliefs, feelings, and impulses deep within are not available to us at a conscious level, he believed, or Freud believed, that the most of what influence us is our unconscious. Okay, for example, here is the Oedipus and Electra complex. Do you still remember the Oedipus and Electra complex? It is under the unconscious. Okay. Sorry. Unconscious. So, Oedipus and Electra complex mentioned earlier were both buried down into the unconscious. So, unconscious, hindi naman sinasadya. It is behind of our brain. Okay? Out of awareness due to the extreme anxiety they cause. While these complexes are in the unconscious, they are still influence our thinking, feelings, and doing in perhaps dramatic way. Another example for unconscious, okay? Unconscious ka, for example, kasal ka na, or let's say, for example, may jowa ka na, okay, may jowa ka. Unconsciously, napapaniginipan mong may iba siya. It is because you have the feeling of anxiety na may iba siya. Okay? Kasi palagi mong tinatatak sa isip mo na baka may iba na siya. Baka may iba siya. O baka third party niya na ako. So, unconsciously behind your mind, napapanaginipan mong may iba siya. So, it is because it's influenced the way we think, the way we feel, and doing in perhaps, especially us na kakapanganak lang, may asawa. So, of course, you have these feelings na may mga ganitong mangyayari in unconsciously. Okay? So, next. The conscious. Okay, balikan natin. Or the preconscious. What we call the conscious. Okay. Freud also said that all that we are aware of is stored in our conscious mind. Our conscious mind only comprises a very small part of who we are, so that in our everyday life, we are only aware of very small part of what makes up our personality. Most of what we are is hidden and out of reach. Okay, the conscious mind consists of everything inside of our awareness. So you are aware. You are aware whether it's good. You are aware whether it's bad. You are aware that it is reality or fantasy. So, aware ka sa paligid mo. Aware ka na tipong binugbog mong classmate mo pero sinabi mo, ay, hindi ko sinasadya. No, you are aware. Ang kumikilos ng mind mo is the conscious. Okay? The conscious mind. Freud's conscious mind, your subconscious is the storage point of any recent memories needed for quick recall, such as what is your telephone number. So, ang Next ng conscious mind is the subconscious. This is the last part, is the pre-conscious or subconscious. This is the part of us what we can reach if prompted, but still not in our active conscious. It's right below the surface but still hidden somewhere unless we search for it. So, storage siya. Kung baga, ang utak natin is like a memory. Memory na, yung sa memory ng cellphone, okay? Pag tinanggal mo, binalik mo ulit, may isa-search ka, may naraalala ako. Parang ganito, ganyan, ganito, ganyan. So, kunyari, for example, nag-break kayo ng jowa mo. Okay? Nag-break kayo after 1 month, nagparamdam siya. Okay? Nagparamdam siya, nakita mo yung number, ng telephone number niya. Kahit dinilit mo na siya sa phone book mo, nagparamdam siya, tapos memorize mo pa pala yung number, naalala mo bigla, hala, number niya to, 0917162800, hala, number talaga niya to. O di, si subconscious mind na yung naka-strike in your mind. It is because ang storage ng number ng ex mo is nare-recall mo pa rin. Okay, kahit na dinilit na sa phone book mo siya. Alright. Do you get it? Okay. Do you have any questions, clarifications, reactions? We will tackle that one on our next discussion under Google Meet. So guys, I hope you learned something from me today. I hope you stay safe and stay everyone. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.